Right, very quickly, I'm gonna run through some things for you guys. This is the actual business proposal. So what we're doing is back in 1980, I was living in right outside of Detroit, Michigan, and my uncle was formerly a pro football player. He played for the Philadelphia Eagles, and in my neighborhood at home, all of my cousins and them were playing in our family's recreational league at home. My uncle, his name is, we call him Uncle Poppy. His name is Robert Wilson. He opened up a community center in our neighborhood so we could control all of the scheduling of all of the recreation, all of the summer camps, all of that. Um, so my uncle invested in the actual community center. His father, my great grandfather, John O. Wilson, he opened the church in the community. So, and then they named the whole street after my great grandfather. So our neighborhood has John O. Wilson all through it. John O. Wilson Recreational Center, John O. Wilson Street. Um, the church is St. Philip's Baptist Church. The elementary school is Wilson Elementary School. Like the whole neighborhood. So my uncle and my aunt, William Hackett and Diane Hackett, who unfortunately all passed away. Diane Hackett passed away in 2020. Then her oldest son, William Hackett Jr., his wife passed away in 2021. Then my uncle, William Hackett Sr., passed away in 2022. And then their grandson, Sean Hackett, passed away in 2023. So this recreational league that our family has had, let me go back. So my mother was the actual one who ran the day-to-day operations for the family recreational center, the church. My mom was, let's call her the CEO of the programs. She was the program director for my uncle, for my grandfather. Everywhere that we had an entity, it was my mom who ran the day-to-day operations. Her name is Beverly Webb. She also passed away. So when I was in Berrien Springs, Michigan, while they were in the university, they went to school, they left home, they went down south first to Huntsville, Alabama, where Xavier and Deja are currently in school at. And so for 4 years, we were in Huntsville, Alabama. And then for 3 years, when they were getting their master's degree, we were in Michigan, right outside of Detroit. And by the time we were in Michigan, I was already 6 years old. I was already a phenomenal running back. I was already, because my uncle was a pro running back. And so all I wanted to do was be Uncle Butch. And the Pop Warner League down there in Michigan, they all played on Saturday. Just like here in Florida, where right here in Kissimmee, Munchie has not been able to play because they play on Saturdays and we worship on Saturdays. So what we're doing here is the same thing that my mom did for me in Michigan. And we put this year on the calendar, especially when Uncle Butch died. We put this year on the calendar for Munchie so that the last 4 years that he's in middle school, because that's when Pop Warner tackle football really goes to the next level. When you get to middle school in sixth grade, that's when the tackling is is serious. So in order to play on the next level of high school, you need to start playing in sixth grade. So I've always had this year on the calendar because my mom created my own league in the community that we were in. She basically created my uncle, our family recreational center in the neighborhood that we were at for the 3 to 4 years that we were down there in Michigan. Nobody else in Michigan played on Sundays. We were the only league that played on Sunday. And my mom did that so that I could play football and basketball, and so I wouldn't be left behind when I got back to my cousins and family members. And lo and behold, over in Chicago, where Kanisha was growing up at simultaneously, there was a league called the Christian Fellowship League. I didn't know anything about the Christian Fellowship League, but it has started in 1970, and they did the same thing in Chicago and Michigan and Indiana and Milwaukee, so that individuals who were Seventh Day Adventists in those areas, so that they could play football and basketball on a high level. In 1970, they created a Christian Fellowship League. And so my mom, separate from that, created my own league that had several teams in several neighborhoods. So I'm taking the same model that my mom used and my uncle used, and instead of creating recreational models, we're creating a professional model. That's all we're doing here. All right. So once Kanisha and I left college and we went to Chicago, her hometown, that's when I became aware of the Christian Fellowship League. So then I went into the community and I created a community version of what they were doing for the churches. And I approached them and I said, can I put teams of people who have been dropped out of high school as an incentive for them to get back in school and stay out of crime, stay out of violence. And at the time I was studying the phenomenon in our community where they give out graduation certificates. And we knew that a person with graduation certificate, 85% of them end up committing crime because they make almost $21,000 less a year because they can't join the military, they can't go to college, they can't anything. The graduation certificate is a phenomenon called the dropout factory. And we learned in the 90s, this is 1999 when we moved to Chicago, I knew that a way to decrease crime in a neighborhood is to decrease the amount of individuals receiving graduation certificates, give them incentives to go back and at least finish school and a GED. And at this time, I was my right hand man in the organization that we have right here called Break the Cycle was E.T. the hip hop preacher, who his claim to fame is he had dropped out of high school. He was homeless, eating out of trash cans, and someone came and said, I'll remove all of the financial barriers if you show me that you'll do whatever you need to do to get up and go to school. And if you show up at my university where I have individuals who I can pull strings and take care of the financial thing, if you're willing to do the work, if you show up with a GED, I'll get you in college and I'll make sure that your college is paid. And he came to the university that Kanisha and I went to, and um, as a way to give back for him honoring his word and getting the financial barriers removed, ET started a GED program in Huntsville, Alabama, a GED program to do for people in the projects called Mason Court Projects and Greenside. Um, to do for them what the pastor's name is Pastor Willis, our great friend Sharon Willis. To this very day, her father and mother are the reason that the world has access to E.T. the hip hop preacher. And so I began volunteering and working with E.T. the hip hop preacher so that I could offer the recreational components to the people in the projects as he was offering an educational component. I know that our people respond to football and basketball because I responded to football and basketball. When I was given the opportunity, I played on the highest levels. And I know that our people, there's a gold mine, there's an untapped gold mine in monetizing the leagues with all of the talent in our communities. And so all we're doing here is what we've been doing all of these years, but instead of doing it for recreational purposes, we are going to do it for profit. It is not a non-profit league. It is a for-profit league based off of the same launch that the NFL did when they took the original teams in the NFL and launched them. This is exactly what we're doing. And this contract right here, it says Tree of Life USA Banks. So there's a trust fund. There's a trust fund. All right, so this is all based off of financial principles. This is why I went to school for business and finance. My mother went to school for business and finance, and the blueprints that my uncle and my mother and that I studied in finance and the MBA, it's all around a trust fund. When you have a trust fund, you have a trustee that manages the funds and you have beneficiaries. Okay? So instead of doing agreements between people with W-2s and people getting paid as employees, no, we are managing a trust. We are owners of a trust. The team itself is a trust fund itself. And the individuals that work for the trust fund are called trustees. Trustees get paid. You get paid to manage the day-to-day operations of a trust fund. And then the trust fund can pay out. So the people that play in the league, they are what we call beneficiaries of the trust. So the salary to play in the league, the salary to coach in the league, the salary for the cheerleaders, the salary for everything, salary for the people who clean up, We will not use the terminology employee. We use the terminology beneficiaries. I don't have time to go into all of the details, but these are the components of wealth building that we have built into the launch of the league. And this is the same concept that they did around the football teams. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a family called the Rooney family. The Rooney family owns the family trust of the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's why they're multi-billionaires, because the asset is the trust fund called the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers is not a business, it's not a corporation, it's a trust fund. So, we're speaking to the Grahams about sitting down at the table, just like the NFL went to 32 different families. The Washington Redskins, the Green Bay Packers, the And then to this very day, they hand down the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're on the third generation of grandchildren of the Rooneys that own the trust fund of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this is the document that we will use. Tree of Life USA Banks and Break the Cycle LLC seeks a silent investor partnership. So when you come to the table as a trustee, everybody, all of those families had to invest to be able to. So they had to, the fees to be able to buy the field that they played on came out of the money that the family raised. So a price tag was put for everybody to be able to own a team. They said you got to pay. I think it was $10,000 per team. All right. To give you a modern day example, Snoop Dogg, I think in 2015, he started a Snoop Football League, and he went and raised $1 million to buy all of the fields or whatever. And so each team was allotted their portion of the $1 million to be able to get the fields, get the coaches, blah 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 blah, get the referees, pay the referees for the games. So there's money that has to be spent. So this is an investment agreement. So your family's gonna have to sit down and decide, okay, is this something we want to do? But every member of the family can be paid as a beneficiary in some phase and aspect, either coaching, either playing, either on the physical therapy aspect of when you're playing football and basketball at such a high level, there are going to be injuries. So um, what Kanisha and Laura do full time, uh, here through this instrument, we can pay them 4 times their current salary, 4 times their current salary, to put the day-to-day operation in place to find, source, and find the health practitioners that will do in our league and in our clinics and hospitals for our league, the staffing aspect, the hiring, the HR, the training, the schools. We're gonna have our own schools attached because we're harnessing technology and going to the next level in these leagues. And so the new form of technology that we're using, virtual reality, um, we have a new technology and a new film. We're going to film in a special type of way with special type of cameras and special type of technology called motion capture, virtual reality, motion capture. Um, we're going into physical therapy with virtual reality. So our school is going to provide the training that you can't get right now in other places that incorporates all of these new technologies into physical therapy, occupational therapy, nursing, the medical field. All of these technologies are all over the place, but nobody has all of these technologies in one place. We're going to put a school together that supports and creates the health professionals that will service our league. So we're coming up with the curriculum and the technology to put all of that stuff in one place. And instead of my wife and Laura being just employees, we're going to turn them into executives and teachers and trainers and and HR professionals and teachers, and if we need to pay for them to go and further their education, then out of the trust fund will pay. But the operations, the day-to-day operations from the sales of the ticket, the games, and the streaming of the games is where the operational budget to do everything comes from. So the CFL is had their 50th year anniversary this past summer. So I reached out to the commissioner of the CFL and the 32 teams that were in the middle of the country. He has agreed to help relaunch those 32. His name is Joe Middleton. He has agreed to so we're going to start out reaching out to the teams that played in those specific 32 areas. And if nobody from those exact community that's already in his pipeline wants to take ownership of that team, then in that same community, I'm going to go out and find somebody else in that community to take that team. If Joel's people want to take ownership of the team, we're just going to deal exclusively with Joel's 32 teams in the middle of the country. And then I'm doing the the eastern part of the country, New Jersey down to Florida. We're gonna have 16 teams there, and the far western part of the country, from all the way up north all the way up north, San Francisco, Seattle, Washington, all the way down bottom to Las Vegas and Arizona and all of that. So we're gonna have 16 teams on the west, 16 teams in the far east, and 32 teams in the middle. You do the math. That's 64 teams. 64 teams. All right. And then each team will be launched with this document. All right. We seek a silent investor or investor group, a family. All right. We have our headquarters in Clearwater, Florida, where the day-to-day planning and execution of our business plan. So we opened this office last year. When my nephew died, I have a partner by the name of Don Howard and Lois Howard who started this business and community outreach program by giving me a car detailing business when I was in college on the same campus that I called it Break the Cycle, and I've been using car detailing in the businesses that Don gave me to as another incentive to get our people to come out of the streets and instead of doing crime and all of that, play in our leagues, get paid, work in our businesses, work in our companies and get paid so that the crime doesn't happen, so that they don't drop out of high school. And then, so everything that we're doing is to prevent them from falling into the trap and the snare of criminal activity. That's why it's called Break the Cycle. Break the cycle of poverty, break the cycle of crime, break the cycle of violence. And we use recreation, which they already love from a child. And now we're saying, why not come do what you love and get paid to do what you love? And then when you're not playing, we have these other businesses connected to the league that you're playing in that you could come over here and you can do this business as a whole nother an additional source of income and revenue, so there will be no excuse to fall back into poverty, no excuse to fall back into crime. All right. So we've run this office in Clearwater, Florida, all of 2023. USF is right next to our office. So we already reached out to the football team of USF. We already reached out to the basketball team. So we're getting coaches, we're getting trainers, we're getting fitness. The USF is a huge campus. We're going to do the same thing at UCF. So the talent to be able to run the league, and the coaches and the talent of players who came to school and now they might want another option of a pro option. We got tons and tons. It's 70,000 students on UCF here in Orlando. All right. And it's almost that. It's like 50,000 at USF. So we went over to both campuses. We have a league. We need coaches. We need players. We need everything. All of these schools, they teach the physical therapy. They teach the nutrition. They teach everything. So all I'm doing is coming to the Grams and giving you a heads up that there's an opportunity for y'all to change the financial trajectory of your family by owning what you guys already are doing. And the beautiful thing about what Fatma and Jaleesa have already been doing is my mother and her sisters were the greatest cheerleaders of us playing in the league. That's why we played so well. We played for our mothers. We played for our aunties. We had the best cheerleaders in the country. Okay, when my grandma would come to the game, when my aunts would come to the game, like yo, we would show out on a level. So by them putting together the dazzling the Dazzlers dance team and cheerleading team, the cheerleaders in our league were not paid. The cheerleaders in our league didn't have a nationwide competition that they could tell young girls, hey, listen, you can come over here and we're going to put a professional dance studio troupe. So when we practice for the national tournament, you're practicing on a professional level. And the model that we're using is a school of the arts up in New York. They had a movie called Fame back in the day. I don't know if y'all know about it, but Fame is based off of a school called Juilliard. Juilliard in New York, all it does is it has a from high school, college, and masters in, you can get your masters in dance. You can get your masters in orchestra. You can get your masters in jazz. You can get your masters in act. It only specializes in the arts. So that's what we're doing with the cheerleader component and the school that we're going to have. We're putting a performance art and fine arts school, which my wife and I and our kids, the high school that we went to, it was a performing arts, had a drama component. We went all around the world performing arts. So with the dance competition, it falls under that category of the performing arts. And if you ever want to go to the professional level, you have to have a school, you have to train, you have to practice, you have to have a dance studio, you have to have the dance clubs, and then you put together this schedule and you let them come and compete. And then just like with the NFL, each team has its own cheerleaders. Same thing. What Fatma and them were doing is exactly what we needed anyway for the league that we were trying to create with Little Damon. And I sat down with all of my cousins up north, and they all want to resurrect our family's recreational league anyway. So this is the year that our generation said we want to sit down and we want, in honor of Uncle Butch and Uncle Robert Wilson and our great grandfather, we want to resurrect in our family's neighborhood. We still run the community recreational center. And so we're going to use the model that my family did in Trenton, New Jersey. And on the campuses of these teams, we're going to have that John O. Wilson Recreational Center. We're going to have that St. Philip's Church. We're going to have the school, Wilson. And so all of the components that we already have in place, we're just going city to city, neighborhood to neighborhood, finding families that want to do it. We're creating a trust fund. We're creating the trust fund. And if your family doesn't have the money to put up the money, because we already started the operation and we've been doing it, and then we have a history of the 50 years that the CFL did it in Chicago, it gives me the ability to go to a bank and get what they call the startup funds. So my team, Don Howard, and the other people who are launching this thing, we're willing to go get the funds. But it doesn't work if we don't have a family who takes ownership. Because when we go get these funds, you gotta have your kid, you gotta have your coaches, you have to run the day-to-day operation in Leesburg. You have to run it. When we get on the hook for this money, then we have to execute. Okay? So this is not no game. This is not no, I mean, Don Howard and Lois Howard have invested. We pay $1,000 a month for rent for the office down there. We're feeding out of there every Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday. Um, the operation is growing by leaps and bounds. And so now it's time to add the team so that the revenue can come back into the pool and we can launch the other teams. All right. So I just wanted to show you the document. This is the document um, that launches. This is the document that launches the thing. So Dre and all of the players will know what IMG is. But just to give you an idea, do you see what this tuition? This is tuition. Middle school from 6th to 8th grade, right here in Florida, they're receiving $90,000 a year. $96,000 a year. Middle school. If they're just coming for the day and they're not staying, this is if they're staying in the dormitory and they're eating and they're training and they're going to school. 90,000. Middle school, high school, and graduate school, college. $90,000 a year. This is girls basketball. They have 1,000 different things. So I'm just trying to show y'all the amount of money that we're leaving on the table. So we created both of the schools last year. We have 2 schools. We have an outreach lifesaver academy that we created in 2009. And then we have the financial academy so that every person, when they get their money, every person gets a 5-year financial academy. Every person, no matter if you're a player or coach, you're enrolled in a 5-year financial academy in this financial university to learn how to manage, how to create wealth from being a trustee and having beneficiaries with a trust fund. All right. But this is happening at schools all over Florida. $90,000 per student. So every player in our league will be enrolled in our schools. That's how we get the tuition. So we have a revenue stream from tuition, and there is the state pays because we have a faith-based component. Our families, church, We have a faith-based component. So they have scholarships that the state of Florida pays for each one of your students. My son Damon, his tuition is paid right now in this same exact program. So IMG Academy is able to pay, able to charge people. You basically get to charge however much. You basically get to establish what the value is on your program. Okay? So they're just saying this is what our program is worth based off of the investment that we've made in it, the high level of the quality of what we give our students, and people agree and they're going and they're paying it. And our tuition is going to be 4 times this. No lie. 4 times this. Cheerleaders will be enrolled in a school. So the school will comprise of the dance training, the financial training, and then we always want to train our individuals to be future coaches. So the future of the league is secure. The future of the league is secure. And then we have the Holywood studios because we're going to create video games. The video game industry is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. We have our own video games. We have our own fashion lines connected to Holywood studios. We have our own sneakers. We make and manufacture our own sneakers. Every phase in our own uniforms. Full ownership. So in the Financial Academy, what you'll learn is full ownership. And then when you come and you join, some people will have to go through the fashion university. And when you finish the fashion university, then you will be given the ownership of launching the sneaker company that creates all of the sneakers for everybody that plays in our league. Or the uniform company that provides uniforms for everything. Or the fashion lines that the cheerleaders have to wear fashion. And it's a never ending story. We own the network that broadcasts the games, just like they have NFL Network and they just like have ESPN. So we have a broadcasting school to train individuals to finish the university and then create the broadcast studios that owns the network that we charge people to watch our games on. We own every component of this. But the bread and butter that allows us to launch this immediately and get started immediately is that Florida pays these scholarships. So all we have to do is, and the Grams, you got 1,000 people out there that have played with your grandchildren and all of that. If all of your grandchildren and all of their teammates and everybody who was with them enrolls in our universities, even this says college enrolls in our universities, and then we get scholarship tuition for each one of your family members that play in the league, that the scholarship money alone for the people taking the 5 years, because in 5 years we doing $10 million contracts, $2 million a year. That's what you're playing for. You're playing for a $10 million contract over 5 years, $2 million per year. That's the nest egg that will start your family's personal trust fund. So we're going to take $2 million a year. We're going to show you how to create the entity called a trust fund for your own individual wife, children, boom, 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 that you will leave down. And every year you get paid your $2 million for 5 years while you're in the financial university. We're going to teach you the next step. This is what you do with this. This is how you attach a trustee to it. This is a beneficiary. Boom. But we also will get paid for each one of y'all going through the university. We're going to get paid to teach y'all wealth. We're going to get paid to give you a professional league to play in. Florida is the only state that does this. This is what allows us to do this right now and right now. We can sit down with the applications. Y'all can sign an application, fill out, become a student in the school, and pick the school you want to go through, pick the path you want to go through, and the financial path you want to go through for the next 5 years. And all we got to do is go back to the Department of Education, say, hey, we got 80 students, we got 100 students, we got 1,500 students, and student athletes. All right, so um, all we're doing is using the model that's already here in Florida and the model that we've been playing under in New Jersey and Chicago all our lives, and we're just spreading it out all over the country and then paying people to play in it. All right, if you got it. So I'm gonna put this online. I'm gonna send this to you, and then we can meet and talk about it and discuss it later on this evening. All right.